Anna, out in cinemas now, new film by Luc Besson, who is a rather interesting director. Interesting because when you look at his early filmography, he directed movies that are now classics, or at least cult classics. Films such as Nikita, Fifth Element, Leon the Professional. He also wrote the Taxi series, the comedies, which, yeah, probably aren't the best movies out there, but as a kid, I absolutely loved them. And then seemingly something happened to him or his talent because in recent years he's just not been up to par compared to his early films. The Family received mixed reviews. Lucy was pretty universally panned by critics. And Valerian and the City of Thousand Planets was probably one of the biggest disappointments of 2017. Now he's back with a new film called Anna. And of course, the main question is which Luc Besson showed up this time around? And I'm afraid I don't have any good news. So the film follows the titular Anna, who we meet as she's recruited basically from the streets of Moscow to be a model in Paris. She goes along with it, begins a stellar modeling career, and meets a Russian businessman who is interested in her. And suddenly, bam, she kills the guy, and we begin the first of many flashbacks to reveal that she was actually a KGB spy slash assassin all along. It may seem familiar because while I haven't seen Nikita, I read the plot summary and it seems to be almost the same story, which means that Besson is not just copying other filmmakers, at this point he's plagiarizing his own work, which is not good. Back to the flashback thing though, this is one of the main things that I didn't like about the film. It constantly jumps back and forth between the different years, usually to explain another of the many plot twists. However, there are movies that do this in an interesting, engrossing even kind of way, like the recently reviewed Ja teraz kłamie or The Handmaiden. But here it doesn't work. It somehow takes any momentum, any steam out of the film, and it kind of slows it down a lot, especially as it becomes rather predictable at some point. That when we switch timelines so many times, at a certain point, it's just okay, I get it. This is going to be another lengthy explanation of another double cross that just happened. And I tried to really think about why exactly the flashbacks don't work at all in this film. And I think the main reason has to do with the overall pacing of the movie, which is horrendous. The film seems to have absolutely no tempo, no momentum for it. There are maybe two scenes with some sense of urgency, but the rest feels like the story is just not moving forward at all. It's just so slow. It's a 2 hour movie that almost feels like it's 3 hours long. And the important thing is this. The slow pace isn't necessarily an issue if it is deliberately chosen for the film that you're shooting, if it fits the tone and the narrative. A slow burning drama or horror can be terrific. But this isn't that kind of film, and interestingly enough, this brings me to another point of criticism, which is that it seems that even the filmmakers themselves weren't quite sure what kind of a film this was going to be. On the one hand, it has sequences which are dumb, simple, violent action. Problem one, shooting has recently been done much, much better by movies such as John Wick or Atomic Blonde. Problem two, there are very few of those sequences scattered throughout the film, which makes it difficult to really accept it as an action flick. On the other hand, it tries desperately to be a more grounded, more serious spy drama with themes of exploitation and freedom of choice versus the loyalty to your organization and your country. But it's difficult for the audience to take it this way either, because the story is just too damn stupid for it. Most of the plot points don't make any sense at all. The general narrative is weak, and the movie even manages to completely waste the time period that it's set in. So it all takes place between 1985 and 1991 or 2, I can't quite remember at the moment. The turn of an era, in any case, the end of the Cold War. I mean, this is a great setting for spy stuff, right? Well, not here. The time period is almost entirely irrelevant to the plot, and in fact, due to the laziness of production design, it even gets in the way of enjoying the movie. For example, we have Anna and her boyfriend shown all the way back in 1985, living for scraps in a shithole apartment, being addicted to drugs. And Anna suddenly begins to fill out a form to join the army. That's not even the worst. Wait for it, it's coming. Via the internet on a laptop. What's going on? Everyone seems to have a cell phone, despite it barely being the 1990s. And at the end of the film, one of the crucial plot points revolves around a USB stick with KGB data on it. But USB as a standard has not been invented until 1994, I think, and USB sticks were not produced until 1999. And I know maybe the general audience won't care or notice any of that, but I do, because it shows that someone making the film either didn't do their homework or did do their homework but decided to ignore it anyway and just make a movie without any attention to detail at all. I mean, for God's sake, there's a scene in a Polish embassy in Milan, which is not even a capital city, so it doesn't have an embassy, and one of the bodyguards is a black man. What? So if you're not treating your movie seriously while making it, why am I expected to do it while I'm watching it? I don't really want to go on about this film because I feel like I already wasted enough of my life for it. The only shining point that I want to mention is Cillian Murphy, who is clearly having loads of fun with his role of CIA agent. All the rest of it is unfortunately a rather incoherent and unoriginal dumpster fire.